Welcome to the Social Intelligence Channel. Join us as we outline techniques to help you identify your emotional triggers so you can address them before they ruin your relationships. So, what are emotional triggers? They are the unconscious patterns that can spark a firestorm of emotions and reactions, often leaving our relationships in the aftermath. But what if we told you that these triggers are not just a natural part of who we are, but rather a set of limiting beliefs and patterns that can be identified, acknowledged, and transformed? One of the biggest challenges we face when it comes to emotional triggers is recognizing them in the first place. So often, we get caught up in the heat of the moment, reacting without thinking, and then wonder why our relationships are filled with misunderstandings and conflicts. The problem is, our emotional triggers can be so deeply ingrained that we're not even aware they're there, making it impossible to address them. But that's not all. Our triggers can also be incredibly nuanced, making it difficult to pinpoint exactly what's causing the reaction in the first place. Maybe it's a tone of voice, a certain phrase, or even just a look. Whatever it is, it sends us spiraling into a whirlwind of emotions, and before we know it, we're lashing out at our partner or loved one. The worst part is, these triggers can be incredibly destructive, causing us to say and do things we later regret. And yet, we often blame the other person for making us react this way, rather than taking responsibility for our own emotions. It's a vicious cycle that can leave our relationships in tatters, all because we're not willing to confront our own emotional baggage. So, how do we start recognizing these triggers, and more importantly, what can we do to change them? Let's take a closer look at some common emotional triggers, shall we? For some of us, it might be the fear of abandonment, stemming from past experiences of being left or rejected. For others, it might be the need for control, driven by a deep-seated anxiety about uncertainty. Whatever it is, these triggers are often rooted in our past experiences, and the way they've shaped our beliefs and perceptions about ourselves and the world around us. Take, for example, the classic hot button of feeling criticized or judged. For many of us, this can be a major trigger, causing us to become defensive, lash out, or even shut down completely. But where did this trigger come from? Was it a parent who constantly criticized our work or a teacher who made us feel stupid in front of the class? Whatever the origin, it's clear that this trigger is rooted in a deep-seated fear of rejection or inadequacy. Another common trigger is the feeling of being dismissed or ignored. Maybe we grew up in a household where our feelings were constantly belittled or dismissed, leaving us with a deep-seated need for validation and attention. Whatever the case, it's clear that these triggers are rooted in our past experiences, and the way they've shaped our beliefs and perceptions about ourselves and the world around us. So, how do we start to change these triggers? How do we begin to recognize them, let alone transform them? The key, we've found, is to develop a deeper level of self-awareness, to become more attuned to our thoughts, feelings, and bodily sensations in the heat of the moment. This means taking a step back, breathing deeply, and asking ourselves what's really going on. What's driving our reaction? Is it fear, anger, or sadness? What's the underlying need or desire behind our reaction? By taking this step back, we can begin to recognize our triggers for what they are, unconscious patterns driven by past experiences and limiting beliefs. And once we recognize them, we can start to transform them, replacing them with new, more empowering patterns that serve us rather than holding us back. In the end, it comes down to taking responsibility for our own emotions, rather than blaming others for making us react a certain way. It's about recognizing that our triggers are not a fixed part of who we are, but rather an invitation to grow, learn, and evolve. So, what's the takeaway from all of this? It's simple: recognizing and managing our emotional triggers is key to building healthier, more fulfilling relationships. By becoming more self-aware, acknowledging our triggers, and developing new, more empowering patterns, we can transform our interactions and create a more loving, compassionate world. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the world of emotional triggers. If you're willing to share, what are some common emotional triggers you've experienced in your relationships? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want to learn more about effective communication in relationships, be sure to subscribe to our channel and check out our next video.